For 5.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. As we get started here, we would like to show a brief video.
Guys, ready? And Ken Bell. Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
I also want to
hands off.
how many of our ICE agents have been docked for
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go and put them behind my back.
All right. Cool. Other hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
Now, I want to start by describing what we just saw there. For any of the American people out there who have not seen this video yet, that is United States Senator Alex Padilla being handcuffed in a federal building after self-identifying as a United States Senator at a cabinet secretary's DHS public press conference.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Oh, and by the way, this guy stormed into this press conference that the Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, was having, yelling questions at her, rushing the stage, for crying out loud, before he announced that he was a senator. Of course you're going to get taken down. Of course you're going to get detained, taken to the ground, and arrested and removed. See, this is something that's going on in Democrats' brain. What they want is this, essentially, right there. A mug shot. That's what they want. Because it does two things, folks. Or at least they think it'll do two things. For one, it'll give them a popularity boost, right? Because Trump did it, so why can't they do it? And for two, it'll make the Trump administration look like a fascist regime. However, when you brazenly just violate decorum and norms and the law, for crying out loud, you're going to get removed, and it's not going to boost your popularity like you think it will. This is a trend with Democrats. We've seen several Democrats get arrested, and the narrative coming from them is, oh, Trump is arresting senators, he's arresting congressmen, he's arresting judges, he's arresting his political enemies. That's the narrative. But when you dig in, just scrape the surface. I mean, just land on the surface, as a matter of fact, and look around. You will see, hang on, these Democrats are Looney Tunes, folks. They have lost their freaking mind. And this video right here, by the way, is going to prove that outright. Just simply by comparing and contrasting Republicans to Democrats. This committee hearing, I'm going to show you 5 minutes of a Democrat and 5 minutes of a Republican. And let's contrast what they bring to the table. Check this out, y'all.
This happened 2 weeks ago. A few days later, they tried to arrest a New York City official in a federal courthouse. A few days after that, there was a politically motivated assassination of a state legislator in Minnesota. This is not normal. This is the sign of an authoritarian approach to governance that is threatening our democracy and our people. So we can sit here today and debate government efficiency. We can sit here and listen to lies from both our colleagues and from witnesses about what has been done by former and current administrations. But what is happening in this country right now is not normal. What they are trying to do through the budget is not normal. The rescissions package that they're trying to shove down your throats right now with $9 billion in cuts is not normal. It's not the programs that they're describing. They want to dismantle the United Nations. They want to defund NATO. They want to defund programs that keep children fed across the world. They're trying to defund programs that have saved literally hundreds of thousands of lives of people in countries across the planet. And we just heard witnesses here just a few moments ago say that they're not satisfied with what they've already done and the damages that they're already doing. They want to go after entitlement programs. That means your Social Security. That means Medicare. That means they're going to come for your programs, the programs that are life-saving, that sustain people as they age, the life-saving programs that make it possible for people with disabilities to live with dignity in this country. They are coming for those programs. So we're not going to sit here and pretend like what's happening in this hearing is normal at a time when this administration is using DOGE to enact an ideological agenda against the American people while they're out there trying to arrest U.S. senators and members of Congress. Because this is not okay. This is not okay. We all agree the government should be more efficient. We all agree that we should cut waste. We all agree that there should be bipartisan pathways forward to make the government operate in a modern manner. But that's not what this enterprise is all about. This enterprise is about consolidating power and endangering the lives of people that they disagree with, including people who ask questions doing their jobs in public settings. And if they will do that to a United States senator, what will they do to the rest of us? So we're not going to sit here today and normalize this behavior. We're just not. We're just not going to do that. And with that, I yield back.
So that was just a bunch of lies, a bunch of disingenuous, nonsensical narratives that are being portrayed. Like all these programs, these quote-unquote life-saving programs that are supposedly being shuttered. Like, okay, let's do this right quick. Let's work this out right fast. Okay, let's take these programs, for instance. Okay, say we've got a life-saving program that we're sending whatever it may be, medical supplies to somewhere. Okay, so let's say 80% of that program, the money that's going to that program, is being funneled out of that program and right back into the pockets of the people that are supplying the money to that program. Not the people that paid the money, that gave up their hard-earned tax dollars, but the people that are actually appropriating it. What would you think about that? Wouldn't you think, okay, well, something is wrong with this. Maybe we should shut this down and re-strategize here and regroup and come back and then restart this program once we work out all the corruption. Maybe that's optional here. Maybe that's something that we should take a look at, don't you think? Instead of just saying, oh, they're killing children all across the world, how about let's not be disingenuous and let's be honest about this and say, hang on, there's a lot of corruption wrapped up. It's corruption coded. All of this USAID nonsense was corrupted and just coated with corruption, essentially. And, you know, Democrats, they put out the narrative, oh, they're shutting down life-saving programs and shutting all this money off, this money flow. We're doing all this in a deficit, folks. This is money being spent that we do not have. We're having to put all of this on the United States of America's credit card. Do you think that's a good idea? I thought credit cards were supposed to be for emergencies. I thought that if you don't have the money, maybe you shouldn't spend money that you don't have when you're doing it in a deficit. This is all nonsense. And once again, you know, the disingenuity of saying that, oh, this senator got arrested for asking questions. Yeah, when you storm into a press conference and rush the Secretary of the Department of Homeland, don't you think that maybe, just maybe, that the Secret Service is going to take you to the ground and get you out of that room because you posed a threat, or at least a perceived threat? When you rush in yelling questions at somebody and you're not supposed to be doing that? Once again, and when you go to a ICE detention facility and start punching cops and shoving cops and trying to force your way into a building, don't you think you're going to get removed and charged? Like, once again, folks, if you're on the side of these senators, if you're a Democrat, place yourself in the place of these Democrats. Now, ask yourself this question. If you were to storm into a press conference, the Department of Homeland Security, the secretary was speaking, and you just rushed in and started yelling out questions, do you think that they would just allow you to do that? Do you think if you bum rush an ICE facility while they're transferring detainees at least, they're transferring them off of a bus into the facility, and you try to rush the gates and you start shoving and pushing cops out of the way, do you believe that you would get arrested for doing that? Do you think the cops would be justified in arresting somebody for doing that? That is what's happening, folks, but we are getting a narrative. Now, that committee hearing, as we covered yesterday, was a Doge committee hearing about what Doge is doing. Now, she kind of off the cuff just mentioned kind of about savings in Doge just a little bit. Kind of shows you where their focus is. Now, let's go on to the next. This was immediately following this representative. Came in a Republican. Check this out.
I strongly support law enforcement for protecting the Secretary of Homeland. I wouldn't recognize Senator Padilla if he walked in this room. I now recognize Mr. Timmons from South Carolina for 5 minutes.
And by the way, that was completely unnecessary. I mean, what?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We have $37 trillion in debt. We have a $1.8 trillion annual deficit. The fact that this is a partisan issue and the fact that my colleagues across the aisle are not taking this seriously is really frustrating. It's really frustrating. We haven't even talked about Social Security, which goes into austerity measures. My constituents and your constituents all over this country will receive 21% less if we do not save Social Security. These are just facts. This is just math. So we have to do our job here. We have to do our job here. And some of the most important work Doge has done in the last 6 months is just simply on increasing transparency. Their website shows the public how taxpayer funds are actually being distributed and justified on a daily basis. The Doge initiative has shown that enhanced payment tracking and upfront verification can eliminate billions in waste. And we must make these practices standard, not exceptional. Tens of billions of dollars are lost each year to improper payments across Medicaid, unemployment insurance, SNAP, housing assistance, and more. Most people do not realize that there are 17 means-tested social safety nets that total more than $1.5 trillion in annual government spending. And a good portion of these are improper payments. And it is simply due to lax or outdated income verification processes. So all these different social safety nets that we appropriately provide to Americans, they require that you have an income threshold that you do not meet. And we tell the states that they have leeway in how to do that, but it's a patchwork framework and it's all antiquated. Certain states require pay stubs, W-2s, other income documents to the IRS. It's just simply not enough. This is 2025. Technology can solve this problem. We should be leveraging all income sources in real time and continuously to verify eligibility for federal benefit programs. No more pay and chase, no more hoping the paperwork matches up months later, and no more guesswork. Shockingly, in the big, beautiful bill, the House proposal to simply require states to confirm eligibility twice a year instead of only once resulted in $11 billion in savings. What if we confirmed income eligibility in real time? That's why I introduced H.R. 1755, the Timely and Accurate Benefits Act, or TABS Act, to require states to adopt enhanced income verification across their federal benefits programs to get people the benefits they deserve faster and to stop payments to those who no longer qualify immediately. Now let's zoom out. Income verification is one example of a broader problem. Federal agencies are swimming in waste, fraud, abuse, and redundancy, and thanks to Doge, we now have a public-facing receipt book of over $180 billion in identified savings. From unnecessary grants to absurd leases to federal offices with no measurable output, Doge is shining a light on the insane bloat of our frivolous spending. And again, this is critical work that must be done. We have $37 trillion in debt and run a $1.8 trillion annual deficit. Our social safety nets will fail if we do not make appropriate changes to save them. Mr. Lips, Doge is attempting to overcome barriers to data sharing among and within agencies to enhance fraud detection. Isn't the inability to cross-check databases a problem historically in identifying fraudsters?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. Congressman. It's important to look at the history around improper payments. That there was an executive order issued by President Obama establishing the do not pay system that the Treasury Department has been using to try and increase verification and tighten controls over federal payments. But that was more than 15 years ago, and we've seen hundreds of billions of dollars of improper payments reported annually over those past 15 years. It's important to know that the Treasury Department has been asking for help, asking for the ability to share information. A long time ago, the Social Security Administration couldn't share information about deceased Americans with the Treasury Department. That stopped for a few years. They can now do that. But there's a lot more that can be done to share information between agencies to stop fraud and prevent improper payments. There have been bills introduced both in the Senate and the House to do that, bills by Republican members and Democratic members.
I'm running out of time. Let me finish. So this is not a maybe. This is a must piece of legislation. We cannot continue down this path. My bill came from a Missouri pilot program that resulted in 17% savings. 17% of just Medicaid is $140 billion annually. 17% across all social safety nets that are means tested is $250 billion. We are running out of time. We got to pass these pieces of legislation. We got to use technology to make sure that we're being efficient with our tax dollars. With that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Kind of fascinating, don't you think? That's very valuable information right there, because at least for the congressmen, they need to know these things. But it can be weaponized, folks. It most absolutely can be weaponized, because let me show you how you're being manipulated by Democrats on this. Check this out right quick.
But that was more than 15 years ago, and we've seen hundreds of billions of dollars of improper payments reported annually over those past 15 years.
Yeah, okay, so that right there, if, say, Republicans say, we want to get rid of this waste, these improper payments, Democrats would get on the campaign trail and say, Republicans are trying to take away your Social Security and your Medicare and your Medicaid. They're trying to take these people off of Medicaid. They want to reduce this, blah, 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 blah. They would just go on and on and on and on about how Republicans, they want to cut your benefits that you deserve from hard-working Americans. Yeah, hard-working Americans that receive improper payments. You see how they flip that around and turn it on people? Exactly how this thing began, folks. By a Democrat coming in and saying, oh, look at this senator that got arrested. This is not normal. Of course it's not normal, because most lawmakers are not insane. For the most part, right? Or you would think that would be the case. You would think that our lawmakers, they're the best of us, for crying out loud. They got on a campaign trail and somehow convinced hundreds of thousands of people to vote for them to make the rules that they have to live by. So you would figure these are good, upstanding citizens. But no, for some reason, we've got a bunch of crooks running Congress. That's all we have in there, folks. And don't let that guy right there fool you. He's a Republican. He's not a Democrat. He might not be insane. That doesn't mean he's not corrupt, right? That problem reaches really deep into both parties. So look, most of the time, I ain't going to lie, identify with Republicans because they generally bring the legitics, okay? They just do, for the most part. But once again, that doesn't stop them from trying to scrape a little bit off the top. That doesn't stop them from being bought and paid for by corporate lobby interests or political PACs like AIPAC, things of that nature, folks. And they will vote in the interest of those PACs or those lobbies well before they vote in your interest. Once again, folks, if I'm elected as congressman, ever, that would be what I would do. I would go on a relentless campaign to ban corporate lobby interests, super PACs, and all that good stuff. Get rid of all of it. You know, you hear the progressive left talking about, let's get the money out of politics, blah, 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 blah. You can't do that. You can't get the money out of politics. How are these people going to campaign, by God? Now, if you mean get rid of these super PACs, I'm down for that completely. Let's get rid of those super PACs, because super PAC is basically a bunch of other little political action committees that come together and form a giant political action committee. It's just a corporation, folks. They have overhead to pay. They have, employee wages. They have insurance for their employees. It's insane. And how do they get money to do that? Donation dollars. Your heart. When you donate to Act Blue or what, Win Red. I think it's it's Win Red, or any other of these sites are political action committees. You are paying for people's wages. I don't think that's right? Like, somebody has to do some of the work, sure. But when you get to these giant PACs, these super PACs and all that stuff, it's just way too big, way too bloated, and they have too much power in this country. They hold way too much power over our congressmen, and I don't think that's right. So I'm a firm believer that we need to just wipe everything away with Congress and get all new people in there. Get really based people that are down to earth, can understand that, we're legislators. We make laws. We try to make people's lives easier. We don't go to Congress to enrich ourselves. And that's what these people, like, once again, I'll talk about this all the time, but these congressmen, they go in and immediately when they get elected, they're freshmen, they get in there, immediately they're in the hole $250,000. They have to go out and raise money for the RNC or the DNC or whatever it may be, whatever, unless they're independent. They have to raise this amount of money just to be in good standing. And if you're not in good standing, good luck getting a committee position. You're not going to get a committee position unless you pay money, you raise money for whatever PAC or whatever, like the RNC or the DNC. You're not going to get, and that's bogus, folks. That should be outlawed just outright. Or really should be outlawed. That is absolutely bogus. These people spend more time raising money than they do doing their damn jobs. That's a shame, folks. It's a terrible shame. Then trying to get them to agree on anything. Compromises be damned, I guess. But I think I've rambled on for long enough on this one. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all of this down in the comment section, because it's fascinating to me to understand how Congress operates and to see just exactly how broken it has become. It is far removed from what it was when it was created. Very, very far removed. So far, I do believe the founders of this nation would not recognize Congress for what it is today. They were like, this is the legislative branch? What is going on with all this fundraising and these lobby interests and all this nonsense? They would be absolutely appalled. And so should you. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. I would greatly appreciate that. Share this video anywhere and all over the place, all at the same time, if that's even possible, if you could do that. And if you also could, if you would be so inclined, I would be deeply appreciative if you look right below the video and click that join button. Sign up, become a member, help this channel grow and explode and expand and just boom, so we can spread the message about how we need new congressmen, folks. Y'all do all that for me, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.